My name is Lena. I'm 29. 3 weeks ago I walked into my childhood home expecting laughter, and instead found my parents motionless on the floor. I drove over on a quiet Tuesday evening, no special reason except I missed them. The front door stood slightly ajar, unusual, but I shrugged it off. Dad, I called as I stepped inside. Silence. No TV, no radio, not even the soft hum of the refrigerator. A cold knot tightened in my chest. Then I rounded the hallway corner and everything stopped. They lay side by side in the living room, still, unnaturally still. My mother's glasses had fallen off. My father's hand rested inches from hers. For a second my brain refused to process what I was seeing. I rushed forward, dropping my purse, calling their names. Nothing. I touched Mom's cheek, ice cold. I shook Hidden's shoulder. That's when the panic swallowed me whole. I dialed emergency services with fingers I couldn't stop from shaking. Please hurry. They won't wake up. The minutes stretched into a lifetime. I knelt beside them, repeating their names like a prayer, but the house stayed dead quiet. When the ambulance finally screamed into the driveway, paramedics swarmed in, pulse checks, oxygen masks, urgent whispers. They lifted my parents onto stretchers and I followed, my legs barely carrying me. How could two people who'd seemed fine just days ago be fighting for their lives? At the hospital they vanished behind the double doors of the emergency ward. I was left standing in the corridor alone. Every second dragged. I stared at the closed doors, willing them to open with good news. No one came. I tried my brother's phone. Nothing. I called his wife. Also nothing. My mind started spinning. Where were they? Why weren't they answering? Then relatives began arriving. I'd called one aunt earlier, and word had spread. What happened? Someone asked. I could only shake my head. I found them like that. Another relative glanced around. Your brother left on a trip, didn't he? About a week ago. I nodded. Yes, he and his wife were supposed to be abroad. Hours passed. Finally, a doctor emerged, face unreadable. I rushed toward him. Are they going to be okay? He paused. They're alive, but their condition is critical. My heart plummeted. What caused this? I whispered. He looked me straight in the eye. They've been poisoned. The word hit me like a physical blow. Poisoned. I pulled the weak. Are you certain? He nodded. We're doing everything we can. Tears flooded my eyes. Poisoned. How? There was no forced entry, nothing stolen. Who would do this and why? Behind me, relatives murmured in disbelief. I tried my brother's number again. Still no answer. The more I called, the more a sickening suspicion began to grow. Something was deeply wrong. That night I refused to leave the hospital. I sat outside the ICU, watching the corridor, jumping at every footstep. I replayed the moment I'd found them, the stillness, the silence. It didn't feel like an accident, it felt calculated. And if someone had poisoned them, that someone was somebody they trusted. My gaze kept dropping to my phone, still silent. My brother remained unreachable. A dark fear crept into me, not just for my parents, but for the truth I was beginning to sense. Morning came with no sleep. Then my phone rang. It was my brother. I picked up instantly. Where are you? Why haven't you answered? Mom and Dad are in the hospital. A pause. Then his voice confused. What happened? They're unconscious, I said, barely holding it together. The doctors say they've been poisoned. His voice rose. That's impossible. Hours later he and his wife rushed into the hospital, faces twisted with worry. His wife's eyes were already red. What happened? He demanded. I told him the same story. He shook his head in disbelief. They were fine when we left, he said softly. When did you last speak to them? I asked. A few days ago. Everything was normal. Then why did my instincts keep screaming that something didn't add up? The police arrived later. They asked who lived in the house. My parents, I said. My brother and his wife also live there, but they've been away. The officer noted no sign of forced entry. I confirmed. He looked at us all. We're treating this as a poisoning case. The words still felt surreal. They questioned my brother about the trip, departure dates, travel records. He answered calmly, cooperatively, even offering to show flight confirmations. Days crawled by. My parents remained critical, surrounded by beeping machines. I stayed at the hospital constantly. My brother and his wife were there too. Sometimes we sat in silence. Sometimes we forced small talk. One evening my brother muttered, This makes no sense. Who would do this? I shook my head. His wife wiped her eyes. I just want them to wake up. The police returned for more questions, visitors, daily habits, food. Nothing surfaced, no robbery, no outsiders. The mystery seemed to have no solution. Then one afternoon, my husband, who'd been quietly observing, sat beside me in the corridor. He'd barely spoken for days. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I don't know," I admitted. "Nothing fits." He nodded slowly. "I've been going over this in my head. No break-in, no stranger." "That means," he left the sentence hanging. A chill ran through me. "You're saying it came from inside?" He met my eyes. "I need to check something." "What?" I pressed. "I'll tell you when I'm sure." Then he stood and walked away, leaving me with a knot of dread. Why did I feel like the ground was about to give way beneath me? The next day my husband returned, his expression different. Calm, focused, but heavy. I knew he'd found something. "The medical reports are in," he said. My heart pounded. "This wasn't a single dose," he continued. "It's a slow-acting poison. It was administered repeatedly over several days." I felt the blood drain from my face. "That means," he held my gaze, "someone gave it to them regularly." I started looking at everything they consume every single day, the constant in their routine. He paused. And I found a lead. We drove to my parents' house. The silence in the car was suffocating. When we stepped inside, everything Louise had, clean, orderly, peaceful. Yet now it felt like a crime scene. My husband walked straight to the kitchen. He opened the pantry, took down a familiar glass jar. "They ate this every morning, didn't they?" He held up the pickle jar. I nodded, my pulse quickening. "Every morning," I whispered. He pulled out his phone. "There's something you need to see." My fingers went cold. "Your parents installed hidden cameras a while back," he explained. "For security. They never told anyone." He pressed play. The screen showed the kitchen from days earlier. My brother and his wife entered, chatting casually. For a moment I was confused. Then I watched my brother open the pickle jar. He glanced around. His wife pulled a small pouch from her pocket. Right there in front of the camera, she poured the contents into the jar. My brother stirred it with a spoon, replaced the lid, and set it back exactly where it had been. They walked away as if nothing had happened. The video stopped. "No," I breathed. My voice cracked. "This isn't real." But it was. My husband spoke quietly. "They planned it all, the slow poison so no one would suspect. Then they left on their trip, to create an alibi." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "Why?" I asked, though I already dreaded the answer. He gave me a single word. "Property. They knew if your parents were gone, everything would come to them." My legs gave out. I sank onto a chair. The same brother who told me to visit was already counting on their death. We called the police immediately. The footage and medical reports left no room for doubt. My brother and his wife were arrested. No tears, no drama, just silence. Days later, my parents finally regained consciousness. They were weak, fragile. I sat by the bed, holding their hands. "Mom, Dad," I started. My father looked at me with exhausted eyes. "Who did this?" That question shattered me. I told them everything, the video, the poison, the truth. At first they stared blankly, as if their minds refused to accept it. Then my mother's lips began to tremble. Tears slid silently down her face. My father turned his head away, but I saw his tears fall onto the pillow. "Our own son," he whispered. "Some wounds never heal because they come from the people you trusted most." The trial was swift. Evidence overwhelming. The judge delivered the verdict. Life imprisonment for attempted murder. The courtroom went silent. It was the moment everything ended, or maybe the moment everything changed forever. 3 months have passed since that day. My parents survived, but they're not the same. They rarely laugh. They sit lost in thought for hours. They're trying to move forward, and so am I. But some memories don't fade. Some betrayals leave a scar that never fully closes. If this story moved you, please give this video a like and subscribe to Winds of Thought. Your support means more than you know. This response is AI generated for reference only.